adults who haven't been very activist in all kinds of ways, and so they don't necessarily see that as a way of making a difference in the world. And I think that's so, you know, whether young people or older people, I think we need to hold up trying to do something about the issues is a way of life, and we need to be better models in that regard. I think that's one. The other one, and Mr. Jelks and a few other panelists spoke about it, is, you know, these movements were movements. Yes, there were catalysts. It's clearly Rosa Parks was a catalyst, but these were movements of people that were enabled by all the things that happened along the way, some people known, many, many, many people not known. And I think the whole story needs to be told. I mean, we don't tell our history well. It's very selective, as we know. But even in the history of racial justice, we need to tell the whole story, the people behind it, because it's hard to relate to a hero. They're a whole long ways from me, but I can relate to, you know, the person who baked pies. And I think to find a place for myself as a kid in the movement, things that I can do that further the movement, that may not be heroic, but without that, it doesn't happen, is important for us to find our place. And if you looked at the pride of the kids in the kids' faces who were telling the story, I mean, they owned that story. No, they didn't. They'll hopefully never have a clear sense of what it really meant, but they clearly had the justifiable pride in, we won. These are my people. This was what we did. And, you know, telling that story in that kind of way, telling the story is, you know, and the Africans have a saying that as long as you tell the story, a person never dies. And we need to tell the story not just of Rosa Parks, but of the people around her as well.
Okay, thank you.
Ellen, answering your question, it's a suggestion that I think that the name of Rosa Parks here in Grand Rapids should also carry a word of civics, and to have meetings every month, inviting youngsters either from the ROTC or from the school system. Rotate that invitation so that the people attend. Make some incentive, whether you give them a hamburger or whatever it might be. But I think the word civics in general, I'll mention that because we speak, for example, we have elections coming up, and we have the Republican, we have Democrats, and it's a divisive line on there. When I think of civics, I'm speaking of how the government is run, and that we need to instruct our youngsters. How many people are, whether politics, where the government starts, the precinct delegate. That would be your first elective office. But we need someone that is doing this on at least a monthly basis. And slowly you start picking people up that want to get involved. I was going to also mention that there, just like Rosa Parks, at the local level, we have a number of people that have been involved for years, giving us guidance. But I think most of all, what I hear of Rosa Parks is a word of hope. That is so important. And those are the words that we heard of President Obama. Those are the words we heard of John Kennedy. Those are the words I remember hearing from Roosevelt, from Governor Milliken. Now, they cross political parties. Some have changed, and they go back and forth because they can get elected in one location by being of one party. That is the system of our government. Nothing wrong with it. In fact, I have yet to meet a group of people that says, look, we have all these problems here. I've gotten a group of people here, and we're leaving the United States. It's the other way around. People want to come in here because somehow this government works on changing and bringing new people in and recognize that the ideas are in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights. We can enforce them if we want to. So it means get active. Invite people in, and especially younger people. I mentioned, I'm one of the oldest of 6, and all of us wanted businesses, so we started our own businesses. I don't think any of us receive any money from our family, so you liked it, you want that idea, you want to do something, go ahead. Encouragement was there. But the hope was always there. We had someone to turn to that encouraged us and not abuse us because of the color of our skin. And in the 6 of us were different colors. So it just depends on what they want. But coming up to more recent times, in October 1950, I started a part-time job selling cemetery lots at Resurrection Cemetery. I left here in January, and by then, that short period of time, I set a national record in sales. So I left here with a brand new Buick Special, with custom-made furniture, with some money in my pocket. And then I became very interested as to how does this system of cemeteries work. I mean, if I made this kind of money, what does the owner get on that? And with that, in 1959, I opened up a cemetery. The thing is that, you know, you say, what the heck are you talking about cemetery? We're here talking about civil rights, about discrimination, racism. Did you know that the cemetery that I opened, and by the way, there are 3 types of cemeteries, the municipal, religious, and private. In the private, we have about 140-some private cemeteries. The one that I started in 1959 is the first cemetery of the private in the history of the state of Michigan that did not have written racial restrictions. Look at the contracts where your family's about property, whether it be Rosedale, Chapel Hill, Woodlawn, any of them, and they have the Caucasian clause. What does that mean? Well, we have people that we call Native Americans. I've corrected this because my education comes back from 2 languages, and I studied in Mexico and so on. But we call them Native Americans. It's wrong. They are the indigenous peoples of the Western Hemisphere. And they went from all the way in Argentina, all the way northwest Canada. But we have to straighten out our understanding and not all of a sudden say, well, he's a Native American. And then we imitate the sound of what their group is, a tribe. But we had an incident in Whitechapel in Detroit. This is in 1950s early.
Francisco, if I could just, because you hit on a couple of points there, and I think it ties back in with, 1, education and understanding our history. For example, the Caucasian clause in the cemeteries that we may not know about. Well, excuse me? I know. Well, I know, but I'm saying I'm tying that into the young people and understanding the history and being able to pay attention to those kind of details that we may not, our young people may not understand that or know that. So I wanted to just tie that back in with the fact of what kind of education are we giving our young people, going off of the original question, is what can we do to get them involved? Is to actually, history is paying attention to detail, thinking critically. And I just wanted to thank you, turn it back over to our audience. And I know we have some young people out there, and I want to hear from you. So, okay, your hand was up first, so I'm going to come to you.
I'd just like to address briefly what everyone's talking about. As this young brother, I work with young people all the time, and I hear constantly, be very honest with you, is that we never really address the issue. We being those of us that are over 25. We try to polish it up, we try to shine it up, we constantly saying, go get an education, be a good citizen, but no one ever takes time to explain that. And it was said by this gentleman here, no one models that. And whether people want to admit it or not, I'll go on record as saying it, is too many people of color are embarrassed of who they are in 2010 because we make every effort to be someone else. And what do I mean by someone else? Is we don't even want to know our history. Technically, we do not. If you be honest about it, if you look around today and you see what happened, I'm talking voice inflection. It doesn't matter what it is. People don't want to really address the issue. You can take a simple restaurant. If we go to a place many times where ownership is of a minority, we're displeased with the service, the first thing we say, I'm not going back there again. That's why we don't go. But if you go to Sears and you're not pleased with the service, you return. And that's all I wanted to say. And that's what we don't teach our kids.
I see a hand way back there, so I'm going to get up there. You can come meet me halfway.
I noticed that education is what you guys are speaking to the most. We need to educate the young adults, but I feel in order to really educate, we have to look into the school systems as a whole and how it is flawed.